dear friend to me and to the organization over the last couple of years. And basically, the abbreviated version is that To Right Love Our Arms is a non-profit organization, but it really didn't start that way. It started 3 years ago. I was living in Orlando at the time, just down the street, and basically it grew out of an attempt to tell a story, and really an attempt to help a friend. Hey, I'm going to ask an un-rock and roll favor, which is just that for like 2 minutes you'd be quiet, and not because I'm important, but just maybe because there's someone in the room that needs to hear it. I met a friend named Renee that was dealing with addiction and depression, and she had known a history of self-injury. She had attempted suicide, and basically she was denied entry into a treatment center in Orlando and spent the next 5 days with some friends and I. And I'd never been around a situation like that or a story like that. And basically she loved music. Music was something that was a source of hope for her. And I think the 5 nights that my friends and I spent with her, we went to shows 2 of those nights. And music, like I think in the middle of a really difficult, dark time, had this kind of unique ability to help her keep going. Halfway through the time, I asked her this awkward question. I basically asked her what she thought about the possibility of telling the story. And I figured that she would say, get lost, you know, no thanks. She had shared some really vulnerable things, and I would have understood if the answer was no. And instead, she kind of lit up and smiled and basically just shared that she loved the possibility that maybe other people could find hope in her story, that maybe other people could relate, that maybe other people lived in these places and had been through these things. And she used the phrase that maybe there could be a purpose for her pain, that there would be a sense of, that would just help her make sense of her story. There'd be a sense of redemption in that. Renee went into treatment, and I sat down and wrote a story, and it was a couple pages long, and kept coming back to this awkward title. It looked more like the name of a Fall Out Boy song. You know, it was To Right Love Our Arms, and really it was a goal. The night I met her, she took a razor blade to her arm. I wasn't there at the time, but I had gone home. She took a razor blade to her arm and wrote the word fuck up with that razor blade. And sometimes I tell this story at schools, sometimes churches, all different places, and they don't really like that word a lot. And the thing that we respond with is that we don't really believe it's a profanity issue. We actually believe it's an identity issue. That I think that night when she looked at her life, her 19 years on the planet, that was what she believed. You know, that there wasn't much to be proud of, and that kind of captured the sense of regret and the sense of failure. And To Right Love Our Arms was a goal in the face of that. It was this idea of believing that she could know a better life, that she could start over, and that things could get better. And then we realized that her treatment was going to cost money, and so we ordered some T-shirts to try to sell in Central Florida, in Orlando. We ordered 200 T-shirts, and it felt like this astronomical number. And I made a MySpace page just to try to give the whole thing a home. You know, we didn't know where it would go. We didn't have any big plans. Anthony and I have a friend named John who plays in a band called Switchfoot. And I was hanging out with John. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to like Switchfoot. Anthony likes Switchfoot. I was standing next to John when the first box of T-shirts showed up. We were at FAU. We were at a show at FAU in Boca. And we pull out this first shirt, and we're kind of excited, and John says, hey, would it be okay if I wear this on stage? And there's 3,000 people there, and he's about to go on, and so I just play it cool and say, yeah, John, that'd be fine. You know? And we didn't have a booth set up, we didn't answer any questions, we weren't a charity, it was just this really simple, humble thing. But I went home and looked at the MySpace that night, and there were all these messages from people that had been in the room. Hey, stay with me. And a lot of you are, and I appreciate that. There was messages from people in the room who said that they had lost a loved one to suicide. There was messages from people in the room who said that suicide was something they had thought about. People talked about depression. Some people used that word. Some people just said that life was really hard, that it was really painful. Some people knew why. You know, they shared that there'd been a breakup or a death or some place that they felt stuck. And other people said, you know what, I don't really know why I feel this way. My parents are together, there's enough money, I have friends, but for some reason it's tough to get out of bed in the morning, or it's tough to smile, or it's tough to finish a meal. And I think we realized that night, and really every night and day over the last 3 years, that we'd kind of stumbled upon this bigger thing. Andy mentioned it, I don't know the name of the song, but one thing that we love about music is that these are issues that we don't talk about, like in any circle, basically in society. These are problems that millions of people live with, but we don't really know how to talk about them. And music, we think one of the reasons it's really powerful is Andy can get up here and sing a song that touches on suicide, which is something that we don't talk about. And it's been amazing, I think, just to, I think with the help of music and friends that spend their nights on stages, just to kind of push back at that idea that these are things that we can't talk about. Just to say that maybe this is part of being human. That this isn't about someone being crazy. I think the tendency is that we feel very much alone when we deal with these things. And it's been amazing to learn and to be able to tell people, hey, this is part of life. Like, this is part of the human condition. If you fast forward over the last 3 years, we've become a nonprofit. There's a whole team. It isn't just me. And we've responded to about 100,000 messages and emails. And we've learned that those messages and emails have come from more than 100 different countries. And so with that, we've learned that these are not American problems. These are not emo problems. These are not white people problems. That maybe this is just part of being human, not just in Florida or America or North America, but maybe all over the world. And we've learned that while these are things that are really confusing and really difficult, that we believe there's a tremendous amount of hope that exists in the face of that. We talk a lot about treatment. We've been able to give about $500,000 that's gone directly to treatment and recovery. But I think something we talk just as much about, thanks man, you guys are sweet. Something we talk just as much about, and I'll kind of close with this, is this idea of community. I met a guy named Zach a minute ago. I won't embarrass him, but he told me that he drove 6 hours and kind of to hear this. So that's a little bit of pressure, you know, right before you come on. And I just asked him if he had the mic, what would he say? And I think his eyes got really big. And I was like, no, you don't have to say anything. What would you say? And he just kind of talked about this message of community, like that was what he had connected with. And we think a really basic definition is this idea that people need other people, that maybe we weren't meant to live life alone, but when it comes to pain and questions, whether that's our family or our friends or our own story, most of us live alone in these places. And so I think if we can encourage you with anything tonight, talk to someone. Become the kind of friend that talks to someone. Learn what it means to love your friends, to love your family, to kind of, just to acknowledge the fact that it's just simply untrue, this idea that we're alone if we deal with these things or if we feel these things. We have a find help section on our website. We have a whole team that responds to emails. We'd love to hear from you. We're connected to resources all over the world, but specifically in Central Florida. We felt like this is the place we call home. It's the place we come from. And with that, we wanted to invest in treatment and solutions here locally. So if you're concerned about a friend or someone in your family or even yourself, like, we would love to hear from you and talk to you. Now I get to introduce a friend, which is the fun part. It's the easy part. I got to know this guy. The first time we ever really got to go on the road and be around nights like this was with our friends in a band called Amberlin. And I remember thinking, like, I remember seeing Bayside, and I hadn't really met them yet, and I remember just thinking, like, they wouldn't like me because they're like a cool rock band from New York, and I'm like a dorky, tall, nonprofit guy, and so they don't really need to like me. And it's been really neat that I was wrong, that I was proven wrong, and Anthony's really become a friend. I don't know, I believe in his story, and I'm really thankful that his band and him personally, that our stories have kind of collided. And I think I'll leave it with this. I think one thing we really believe, we're proud of the fact that this grew out of a story. Like, all of this started with a story. And we believe that everyone in the room tonight has a story, that it's not just about Anthony or Andy or the guys that get to be up here, but we really love the fact that this started with a really simple story, and all of you come here tonight representing a story, representing other stories that you're connected to, and we just want to say that it matters. The people that you care about, the stuff that you wrestle with, the stuff that you dream about, you deserve people who know your favorite songs and your favorite movies and all that stuff. That has very little to do with Anthony. That was a tangent. So if you would, not only from the band, but also from the town of Bayside, New York, please welcome Anthony Raneri.